Well, let me say good afternoon to each and every one of you. We are so overwhelmingly grateful for the privilege of having you to tune in to us on Black History Month. And as we started on last year, we did the sound of blackness. Don't get it mixed up with the sounds of blackness. Okay. I don't want to get into any copyright issues. But again, we are here. We are thankful to God for the month of February, whereby we are able to heighten and express and allow African Americans, whether they are young, middle aged, or older, to share with us of the great things that God has, is, and shall do in their life. So, I want to give you a few moments. I see many of you are coming on, and so I see you. Would you be kind enough? Would you be kind enough, if you don't mind, just to give us a quick shout out? Hey, Carolyn, how are you? Good to have you with us. Erica, you doing okay this afternoon? Bless the Lord for you. And for those of you who are on Facebook, if you would be kind enough to share, that would be fantastic. Timothy, good to have you with us. And thank you so much for being a part of our worship experience on this morning. I was looking in the chat, seeing what people had to say, and I'm grateful to God for that. Thank you, Erica. I appreciate that. Nancy, how you feeling this afternoon? You still got them grandbabies with you? I was just, I'm being nosy. I shouldn't do that, but I did. Okay. Thea, good afternoon to you. Linda, good to have you with us. Okay. Please share, please share. Please share, please. Okay, thank you. Thank you. Linda, how's your brother doing? Let him know that I'm praying for him and with him. Denise, good to have you with us. Carletta, good afternoon to you. I got a question for you. Was it snowing down there like it was over here? I drove to church in a blizzard and drove home from church in a blizzard. I don't know what's going on. Then you get to Youngstown, ain't no snow hardly. I'm like, what's up with that? Okay. So we're grateful. Please share. Please share. I see many of you as you are coming on, and I am grateful. I am grateful. No, he went home. Okay, girl, we too old to be trying to keep up with them grandkids. They got energy we wish we had. All right. So we're grateful to God for that. Good, 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 good. Okay. Oh, just on 11. All right. I wasn't sure whether you had ran into any of that craziness or not, but it was wild driving. And so, again, thank you, each and every one of you. I'm going to switch over here to another page. I want to see what we have going on here. There we go. So I see many of you as you are coming on to be with us. Please share. Please share as we prepare for what I consider to be one of the greatest opportunities the Lord has provided, to be able to talk to some of the leadership in Youngstown. Debbie, good, good. Is your sister going to be on? I know she said she was going to. No, Akron is not in the snow belt. Don't even try that. Okay. Akron is outside of the snow belt, but the belt hit us today. Okay. So tell Cecile we're on. Okay. Tell her, and so Carletta, I'm not sure if Pee Wee knows that we were going to be on or not, because I know she doesn't want to miss an opportunity for any of these moments and events to take place. So again, grateful to God for each and every one of you. Okay. Sister Thomas, I see you that you have come on. Tell Deacon Thomas I said hello. Minister Sarah, how are you? Okay. Okay. Thea, I rest my case. I got a judge on here. I rest my case. Daryl, you doing okay, sir? Praying all is well with you and your family. Carla, Titus, what's up, man? It's good to see you. Oh my God, it's been a while, but we're grateful to God. Don't beat me up, Thea, please. Please don't beat me up, please. To God be the glory. To God be the glory. Pastor Lane, how are you, my friend? Good to have you. I got to have a conversation with you. So not today, but what we'll do is we'll do this next week sometime. Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Valerie. Good to have you here with us. We appreciate each and every one of you, and we see them as they are coming on. I don't know, is this Raymond or Vernice? Vernice, tell me which one it is, because I did this before, and then Raymond came back and said, no, this is Raymond, and then the other time I thought it was Raymond, and it was you. So hope me out, okay? It is 3:00. It is 3:00, and so I am grateful to God. I have four of the most dynamic, and I can call them that because I'm older than all of them, I think, okay? Four of the most dynamic leaders in the city of Youngstown. They are not the only leaders, so don't text me later, okay? Just these are four of the most dynamic leaders that we are interviewing on today. I'm going to bring them on one by one and have them introduce themselves to you, and then we will go from there. You know what, Erica? Didn't nobody ask you to post on there about no salmon, okay? Listen, got to go. The first person that I want and shall come forth to introduce herself is none other than the one and only Judge Carla Baldwin. We're in your corner. We're in your court. Give us all you want to give us about what God has done for you.
We don't have that kind of time, Pastor, because the Super Bowl still be going on if I talked about everything God has done. But good afternoon to my Union Baptist family and all those who have tuned in. Thank you, Pastor, for this opportunity. But I'm proud to serve as the presiding and administrative judge right here at Youngstown Municipal Court. I am in the 5th year of a 6-year term. I know it feels like it just happened, but it's that time again. But so proud to lead it. And my heart is to serve our community and to do that with grace and dignity and provide that to everyone who enters the courthouse door. So proud to serve, proud to be here, and thank you again for the opportunity.
God bless you. We're going to put her backstage for just a second. Now, we have another young man who is here with us. He is the chief of police of the city of Youngstown, in person of Chief Carl Davis. Go ahead and talk to us.
How you doing, Pastor?
Good.
Thank you, sir, for having me on and allowing me to participate in this Black History program this afternoon. As I sat here pondering what I might say to God's people today, my mind kind of took me back to April 4th, 1968. As you know, all know on this date, the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King was assassinated. I was 8 years old on that date. Now, this may see if I'm older than you or not, Pastor. Show that, but I can vividly recall the wave of civil unrest and that followed the death of Dr. King and the violence that swept our nation. Yes, I can remember the National Guardsmen being deployed to assist law enforcement here in Youngstown in quelling the violence. I can also remember National Guard helicopters hovering over. Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King sacrificed his life for social injustice and fighting against poverty and fighting the lack of access to housing for Black Americans. Fast forward 54 years later, since the Civil Rights Movement, there has been tremendous progress made along racial lines. Here in the city of Youngstown, we've elected 2 Black mayors, Jay Williams being the first, and our current mayor, the Honorable Mayor Jamel Tito Brown, being the second. In the city of Youngstown, we have hired our first Black police chief in the Youngstown Fire Department, my good friend, Chief Barry Finley. In the city of Youngstown, we have recently elected our first Black female municipal court judge, my friend, the Honorable Judge Carla Baldwin. In the city of Youngstown, the police department, we have had 3 Black chiefs. The first one being attorney Robert Bush, the second, Jimmy Hughes, and of course, yours truly, Carl Davis. To God be all the glory for these great achievements. While some barriers have been lowered, others have been erected. 54 years later, I never would have imagined that we would still be having a conversation about race relations, mistrust of police officers in our cities. I never would have imagined that we would have witnessed the largest racial justice protest in the United States since the Civil Rights Movement following the death of George Floyd. But trust me when I tell you, we do have a good group of young men and women working at the Youngstown Police Department. No, we have not experienced the police abuse of our citizens here in Youngstown like many other parts of the country. Our officers here in the city of Youngstown are expected to treat our citizens with dignity and respect. And finally, 54 years later, nationwide violent crimes and homicides have soared in the U.S. cities. As police chief, I believe some of the things that attributed to that were bad, abusive police practices, which led to protests against the police, plummeting trust of police by communities. After that, a curtailment in proactive policing followed by officers that did not like these protests. So these were all attributable to the gun violence increase. Here in the Youngstown Police Department, we've partnered with federal and state agencies, and we're using advanced data to target areas for intervention. And our officers, while interacting with people, will attempt to mend any strained neighborhood ties. Most people I talk to are tired of seeing our young Black men killing each other, and they are saying enough is enough. I agree with that assessment. Enough is enough. Thank you, Pastor.
Thank you, Chief Davis. I appreciate that so much. The next young lady that we have here is Dawn Turnage. And why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction of yourself?
Hi, hello everyone. Pastor, thank you for this opportunity, as I do not take it lightly to be able to have a seat at the table with such a great pastor, as well as those individuals that are with us today. I am Dawn Turnage. I am the appointed Director of Parks and Recreation for the City of Youngstown, appointed by my great boss, Honorable Mayor Tito Brown. And with that, I have had the pleasure of serving as the first Black female for the City of Youngstown as a Park and Recreation Director, and a little bit of history on that as we are sharing this month and beyond. There are only 19 of us now. When I started, there were only 18, but thanks to Mayor Ginther of Columbus, he has appointed yet another Black female as ourselves, 19 of us across the United States to serve as directors of Parks and Recreation. And with that, first thing that does come to my mind for today is the will of God will never take you where the grace of God will never protect you. And that is what has gotten me through where I am today.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. And last but not least, my good friend and brother, the mayor of the city of Youngstown, Mayor Tito Brown. Why don't you go ahead and run with it, my friend?
Well, good afternoon, Pastor. Good night, afternoon, all the viewers today. If I seem a little lightheaded, is because I just finished my 40-day fast, Pastor. I just, no one said anything about that. I just had to let you know. We finished the race with you. I told you I would, and actually, I still have not broke the barrier yet. So I'm waiting for some victuals to get here that I have not seen in some time. I really wanted to face share with you. I couldn't resist it, Pastor. I just could not.
It's all good.
I couldn't resist it. But I wanted to let everyone know that I'm the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown. But truly, nothing else gives me more honor and pleasure is to serve the people of Youngstown. I tell everybody that I have some of the greatest employers in the world, and every day is an interview for me, and it's a job interview. It's how I do my job. But I'm a father and a husband, and I think I love being mayor. But the job that I held the most, I've been a father longer than anything in my life, and it's being a father has actually trained me up to be a leader. And for those who are out there, because family is truly a big part of what I do and how I do and operate. And as we're talking about Black history, I thought about, me as being the 51st mayor. And then I actually have a little other history that I found out. Carl B. Stokes was the first African-American mayor of Cleveland. He was actually the first Black elected official in a major city back in 1967. How ironic, he was the 51st mayor of Cleveland, Ohio. And here I am, the 51st mayor of the city of Youngstown. I'm the second African-American mayor of the city, but I thought it was great for individuals like Carl B. Stokes to really paved the way for a Jamel Tito Brown to be the 51st mayor in a place like Youngstown, Ohio. I think we've come a long way, but we've gotten so much more to do. And I'll stop there, because I think, as you look at those who are here today, I think collectively we'll be able to share our thoughts. But I always reflect on those who paved the way for me, and I stand on shoulders of giants.
Thank you so much. And so I'm bringing all of them back on board with us. Yes, we have completed our 40 days, and Mayor, I'm delirious as well. This is Super Bowl Sunday, so I went and bought some wings and some salad, and the food smelled so good, and now I don't want none.
Yeah.
So I understand completely. Okay. But I just have a few questions that I want to ask. I'm going to ask the same question to each of you in a random order. And so the first question I'm going to start with Chief Davis is, did you ever dream you would be where you are right now? And if so, or if not, why?
Wow, that's a great question, Pastor. Let's start back in 1986 when I first walked into this building right here in this office. I was interviewed by Chief Randall Wellington. Chief Wellington at that time went down a checklist of things he asked me that would have shown some of my character traits. He asked me had I ever been arrested for marijuana or drunk driving, and he went down a list of things. And with each question that he asked me, I said, "No, sir." I said, because my dad would have killed me. And my father is 90 years old today. I have 4 brothers. There's 5 of us. He can sit us down right now and tell us, "Don't move." You better believe we won't move. So it was that upbringing that attributed to, I believe, to where I am today. But I'll never forget that as he went down that checklist, and then he said, "Your father," he looked up, he said, "Your dad did a good job raising you." And I never would have imagined that 35 years later, I'd be sitting in this seat as the chief of police. But
excellent.
Again, I attribute that to my upbringing.
Okay. Yep. Judge Baldwin.
Well, anybody who knows my story, I wanted to be a judge since I was 12. So I will say that, yes, I believed I would get here. I had no idea that God would do it when he did it. I never thought that I would take office at 37. But I think that goes again, piggybacking off of the chief, being raised in a household with parents who said that God could do exceedingly abundantly above. And then when I had to have my own relationship with God, so when he said jump, I didn't miss my time. So I am thankful that when the time came, I didn't miss my moment. And then when I jumped, then my parents and my brother had faith in me, and they jumped with me. And it was my faith walk, but it was all God. And I'm thankful to the citizens for doing their part. So yes, but just wasn't surprised. Didn't know God's timing, but thankful he chose me for such a time as this.
Fantastic. Mayor.
You know what, Pastor? I didn't realize that it would be in this position. First, because I thought, when I became a public service, I really started at an early age. I remember in the 5th grade, I was a crossing guard. And the 6th grade, I was the captain of the crossing guard. And you couldn't tell me anything as it relates to being a captain of the crossing guard in 6th grade. But I served, I really took pride in, crossing. And it was not a large crossing at Covington Elementary, but it was at that time that I realized that was something that drove me, is getting there in the morning and the evening to make sure that the students got across the street safely. But it was also that I had to have faith that if I was going to be in what position I was going to be in, because as you know, that this was not my first run at running for mayor. And I thought after my loss, I won't say defeat, after my first loss by 142 votes, I wasn't sure what God was telling me, if this was the seat for me or there was something else. And Ironically enough, I thought when that night ended and I walked away not victorious, that I would never look to that office again, this office again. And God spoke to me clearly, not too much longer after that. I really was like, no, not me. And I didn't realize that I would be in this position and now serving my second term of a four-year term as the mayor of the city of Youngstown. So there were obstacles that kind of clouded my thought, but my faithfulness in God is, where do you want me to be as a leader?
Excellent. Don, your turn.
All right. I always knew that I would be working in social service. Always had that passion with working with the community, and this a lot of years being a social worker. And I tell you, I never thought that I would be in the seat that I am in. But I also know that the day my father passed, my reality had changed, because he told me that my work here in Youngstown was not done. And so when that was shared with me, I turned to the statement that some of us always say, and I do too, the Lord only knows when. So my when became, is that a reality? Can I serve God and still know that it's possible to know, not knowing when my when would be? So I just continued the faith and hold on. There were some obstacles that I thought, even though my dad told me that Columbus was going to be the furthest that I got, and changing my dynamics of a career, working in recreation, I thought would also stay in Columbus. But my when changed when I had the opportunity to come back home and actually instill into me what my dad had said, that my work here was not done. And listening to the Spirit and walking in the abundance of God, I knew then that my when was now, and gracious and glad to be back home.
Excellent. One of the members in the audience said they're getting ready to break out a collection plate because y'all preaching today. Okay. Don, I'm going to come right back to you with this one. Who were or are the greatest encouragers that helped you along the way?
Wow. That's a loaded question, but I will have to go straight back to my circle of strength, and that is my family. My family founded on faith, joined by love, and kept me in God. They definitely are my encourager. My mom and my dad, and Pastor, I'm a crier, so this may not work out. But,
it's okay.
So another individual who I encouraged me was through my career, I ran into a lot of people who served as my mentors, and with that encouragement from my family, my parents and my sisters, being able to actually work in Parks and Rec, and one of my old supervisors, she encouraged me to apply for my current position. She definitely was someone that I also serves as my mentor to this day. So I would say those are my greatest encouragers.
Judge Baldwin.
Well, I would have to agree with Don. My family definitely, and I'll have to say my little brother, who I can appreciate now because I like him now. For all of those with siblings, you hit a point where you love them, but it's really the grace of God that you hit the point where you like them. So when I when I felt that urging from God to run, and I told him before I told my parents, and his immediate response was, okay, what do we need to do to make this happen? There was no hesitation. There was no question of capacity or ability or timing. He said, what do we need to do? And so that comes from a household of faith where we support each other. And now my husband, who is my biggest cheerleader, and I'm grateful for him, and my late pastor, Bishop Wagner, who taught me the importance of dreaming. And I cannot make light of that. I cannot express how important that was, that our kids have to be taught that you have to dream. Things just don't happen. So, and then all the people along the way who have become my village. It takes a village to get me through the day. I say it all the time. So I'm thankful for those who have been there from the beginning, those who I know now, because I'm here because of all of those prayers, and my grandparents. Especially my grandmothers, they prayed some prayers that I know I'm walking in the manifestation of those prayers. So just blessed from the root. Blessed from the root.
Fantastic. Mayor.
You know, Pastor, one of the things I always talk about is my foundation, and the foundation really comes from, ironically enough, you know, I'm the only child. My mother only had one child. She got it right and didn't want to mess it. So that's why she decided to have only one child. But with my grandmother, you know, we had there was other grandchildren, but she really took a very big interest in me and making sure that I had a foundation in church. You know, all the other grandchildren did not go as often, and I had to attend church and actually rode to church with my uncle at the time, Booker T. Brown at Valley Baptist Church. So she gave me my foundation, but the other would be Mr. and Mrs. Chris London, and growing up in my neighborhood on Iona. They really took a liking to me again. You know, there's other children in the community, but they decided to pour into my life, and so I actually got baptized at New Grace Baptist Church with Mr. and Mrs. London, because they saw a young man in the neighborhood and wanted to take a very good interest in me. The other two was my mother and my father. My mother has been, you know, she's one of my best supporters, but she can be one of my toughest critics. She keeps me on a straight and narrow, and it's one of those pieces that I truly adore and love about her. And my dad really gave me my savvy to really be the tough, you know, love. He really showed me how to, you know, his phrase that sticks with me as always: I don't do better than me. Don't do what I did. You know, as I tell my story, he's been in and out of prison, but he was my encourager to show me what not to do. So that was a model. And then last but surely not least, my wife. You know, and I tell everybody I got one of the best, not just political consultants, but I'm with my best friend for life, and that's one of the things that really keeps me going. And my children, ironically enough, they give me nuggets of knowledge about politics. They all study in their own circle. They give me a piece of, you know, Dad, you should try this, you should try that. And, you know, my son wants me to do a podcast now. And I'm like, oh yeah, whatever. But that's how you grow, is letting that support circle help you in.
Excellent. Chief Davis.
Yes, sir. With us being in Black History Month, I'm also reminded of, as a child coming up, we would have what we call the African Cultural Weekend celebration. This was a 2 or 3 day celebration that took place in the city of Youngstown. There was a parade that would go down Hillman Street all the way to Chicago Field. There were drill teams, cheerleaders, the boot dancers, and there were men in my life, mentors in my life, Mr. Clarence Barnes, the executive director of the Urban League, attorney Ron Miller, Dr. Daryl Tukufu. With men like this in my life, you couldn't go wrong. They would not allow you to go wrong. So those were some of the influences in my life.
Excellent. I did have 4, but you talked about your family so much that eliminated that one. Okay. But here's the one where the rubber meets the road, and I'm going to see how well you handle this one. And I'm going to start with Don on this one. How do you deal with racial encounters which try to lessen your presence and power to achieve?
Yes. Well, you know, racial encounters in Parks and Rec and park diversity, there is a lack of inclusion in our outdoor space, in our recreation space. And what I do is I manage to hold on to what I believe in. I manage to make sure that I have a seat at the table. I manage to raise my voice and use my voice when need be. Because with that diversity inclusion being a lack of diversity in recreation, there is not a lack of interest. People of color are interested in outdoors and recreation space, but throughout history, the parks in the United States have been created and managed by white individuals, and who were, you know, they were racist for that belief that the color individuals were rarely considered to be major stakeholders in the outdoor recreation field, any park-related activities. So in order for me to actually combat and address that, I had to learn how to be part of the change. And being the change, it was a challenge. There are times when I felt as if my voice was not being heard. However, as a woman and as a Black woman, I had to make sure that I stand up for what I knew was right, setting bold goals that would give me the opportunity to be pacific, to actually create smaller milestones that were actually relatable and achievable, but in creating those milestones, bringing someone along with me to tackle what that imbalance was. And it actually brings me to currently what we have going on. If we can recall, we all know the killing of Ahmaud Arbery and what happened there, and not to lighten that, but just to move a little bit forward and bring an example when it comes to the racial targeting. We have in Parks and Rec, we have Christian Cooper. If you all remember him or don't know, please look him up. He was in Central Park and he was bird watching. And yes, that is something that in the Black community, in the Black and Brown community, you don't see. However, spending that morning bird watching, he also was disturbed by another resident, Amy Cooper, white female who had been loudly calling out for her dog. And Mr. Cooper, he, approached her and said, "Could you politely put your dog on a leash?" Well, if you don't know the story, what that ran into was, because those were the rules of the park, she refused. And from that, she actually called 911 and reported that an African American was threatening her and her dog. And what I have from that story, and from the things that I have encountered and the positive outcomes that I have been able to achieve, I correlate that to the outcomes of Mr. Cooper and what happened. And those outcomes were a week-long celebration of outdoor enthusiasms, of naturalists and a conservationist, and a STEM program came out of that actual experience. The visibility was provided for those in that experience for actual individuals who wanted to get into environment. So Mr. Cooper raised his voice. He used his voice. And because of that is what has gotten me through. And even from his story, the National Wildlife Foundation has created internships to this day. And this all happened just last year for opportunities for people of color, Black, interested in biology, and other wonderful opportunities to have and blossoming in the parks and recreation fields. And with that, I just continue to make sure that I have that seat at the table, make sure that my direction from God is bold enough for me to carry through, and that He gives me the strength of what I need. That's always my prayer of how I can get through those situations that are tight when it comes to inclusion, when it comes to diversity. And from there, I know that I can go forward because I've been fast forwarded along with some great leaders, as I mentioned before, with Mayor Brown giving me the opportunity as a Black woman to have a seat at the table for the first time in history in this area, and to continue on raising up those who follow my footsteps, that I will walk alongside with them and not just be there to provide just an opportunity, but be there to also support them.
Excellent. Chief Davis.
Yes, Pastor. Again, I go back to 1986 when I was first hired here in the city of Youngstown in the police department. There was a time when a Black police officer would not even be assigned or could not even work the west side of Youngstown unless he was accompanied by a white officer. Because of organizations like the Black Knight Police Association, that mentality changed. I'll also say that there was a union representative years ago that said on the promotional exams that a Black person couldn't pass the promotional exam. This made me more determined and driven to prove them wrong. Myself, Jimmy Hughes, Dave Lomax, and Tony Longmire were the first officers in the Youngstown Police Department that were promoted minus affirmative action. I don't know if a lot of people realize that, but and we were the first Black ones. Now, we had Jose Morales, who was a Hispanic officer that was promoted, but first Black officers that were promoted minus affirmative action were myself, Jimmy Hughes, Dave Lomax, and Tony Longmire. And it was just because of that attitude and that statement that just drove me and made me more determined to prove them wrong.
Thank you so much. Judge Baldwin.
I would say that number one, you have to know who you are, both in the role in which you served and the child of the God you serve. And when you know that, then you can face things head on, because I think that's the only way we can deal with it. You know, today I'm in my Delta gear representing my soror is a Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated. And so everybody knows a Delta, you're going to find a lot of elephants in the room. And I say I love elephants. I just don't like them in the middle of rooms. So we're going to address the elephant in the middle of the room, but we can do it with class. And a lot of times it's just education. And the higher you get in your career, in your profession, then what we see is a lot of microaggressions, or we used to say just passive aggressiveness. So what do you do with a microaggression? Number one, you have to appreciate the power of a pregnant pause, because people say things sometimes for shock value. And sometimes you just have to pause, give them a look, both so that you can control your tongue and your response, and make sure that your response doesn't disrespect your office. And I think that's the just challenge of human nature, that I value my role as a judicial officer. I value that so highly that even when confronted with outright ignorance, I'm not going to come down to your level to respond, even if many would say it's justified, because God trusted me to sit in this seat. So I have to acknowledge him in all my ways, not just when it's convenient or comfortable. So I say the power of education is huge. You have to know who you are, and you have to accept that the higher you go when called by God, he does not call us to comfort. So you can't go places because I like it. It's nice. I don't surround myself with yes people, because it doesn't help me grow. And so when I meet someone, I educate, but oh, I'm here. And so here, let me show you who he called me to be, and watch me dispel every stereotype that you have for me. And yes, even with this big curly hair, I'm going to come in here and do my job. And I'm going to do it with like all my other colleagues as far as efficiency, but I'm going to do it as only God called me to do it. And so I can show you better than I can tell you.
That's right.
Can I get a witness? No, I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. I want y'all to know I got a whole lot of notes from y'all. Okay, it's coming up. It's coming up again. I thank you, Mayor Brown.
You know, Pastor, I was waiting for the Hammond B or the organ to come on after that. I was waiting for the background music. That's
yes,
when
sir.
You're right in the groove, and you're right there preaching. And I think all of those who spoke before me have really talked about, you know, racism and in our positions. And one of the things I really focus on in anything is that I represent the people that I work for. But also, you know, a reporter asked me the other day, do you want to be a role model? And I say, absolutely. You know, I talk about when I grew up, the men in my neighborhood were really the role models for me. I watched, you know, Mr. Carl and his brother go to church on Sunday. Mr. Noble, you know, teach me how to in the garden. But one of the things I learned is how to stand tall and be an African-American male. And ironically enough, you know, being just the second mayor in the city of Youngstown, the racism is true for me. If I'm in the room, and this truly happened, I was in Columbus, and we were in a room full of people, and the gentleman started to introduce. He says, you know, I want to introduce you to Mayor Brown, the mayor of Youngstown, and it was myself and my law director. And anybody that knows, my law director is white. The gentleman went to shake the law director's hand and not me, as being the mayor, you know, standing there. You know, Jeff's laughing, I'm laughing, because we both knew that he just assumed that the white guy with the suit and tie on was actually the mayor. And now here we are, that's 2018. Here we are, 2018, and you're still assuming the white guy in the room is the mayor of the city of Youngstown. And the gentleman, I didn't realize. I said, no problem. I mean, you can have the conversation, but when you really want to meet the mayor, here I am. But if we look around statewide, we look at those who are elected officials, and we don't have any of those to represent the, African Americans. If you look countywide, we're still talking about we've never had the first countywide. That shouldn't be. Here we are in 2022, and we're still talking about getting our first. It's always we're good for certain positions. When it comes to a greater position, then everyone forgets about being diverse. And I think we, as those are leaders on this panel today, need to make sure that we continue to pioneer. And as the judge said, we can outshine and outshow, but you show it with dignity and respect. And as I was taught there growing up early, you represent you. But when you walk into a room or you walk into a situation, you represent those who pave the way for you. And you have to do it with grace. You have to do it with respect, and you have to do it with dignity. So when I'm somewhere, there's things that I want to say or do, I don't, because I understand that they'll say that's the mayor, and it's 10 other guys could say it. However, when I say it, they'll put my tag in front of it. The mayor of Youngstown said this, and this. So I know that I represent the people of the city of Youngstown, but I also represent the generations who paved the way for me and my family as well.
Excellent. Well, let me say this to the four of you, how proud I am to know you, to have you as a part of my life, my growth, my development, the ministry that the Lord has blessed me to have, which is now 27 years in Youngstown. You are an inspiration to more people than you'll ever know. In the circles that I travel in, Youngstown's persona is beginning to change. Usually when I used to say Youngstown, the first thing that came out of their mouth was the mob. Now what comes out of their mouth is opportunity. Mm-hmm. And it is because of people like you who have stepped up to the plate as African Americans and said, we will not stop, we will not falter until not only we have achieved, but that we have also made inroads for other African Americans to come behind me. Amen. In this stage in my life, I am a firm believer that much of what I do now will not be partaken of by me. I am planting trees and vineyards that I will never have any of the fruit, but those behind will be able to do so. I'm going to say this, and I know I'm going to get in trouble for saying this. You have solid relationships with God through Jesus Christ. And many people go to church, but the four of you are a part of the church. And when I talk about the church, I'm not talking about your individual ecclesias. I am talking, that's a new one, Mayor. Had to throw a new word out there. But how you spell that, Pastor? How you spell that? I'll text it to you. Greek word for church. Yeah, yeah. And so I want to personally thank you for taking time out of your schedules. I want to personally thank you for allowing me to be a part of your lives. I want to personally thank you for allowing God to use you in tremendous ways. And so I have one last quick question that I want to ask you. Do you see African Americans? Okay, see, Carletta put it in there. ECKLESIA. That is my lay person theologian. Okay. If I need help, Carletta's gonna jump in there and do it for me. All right. I see mothers on here congratulating their daughters. I see Francine Turnage on here talking about, yeah. I saw Judge Baldwin's mom on here as well, rooting on their daughters, and I'm grateful to God for that. Here's the question, real quick. It's a quick answer. Do you feel that our future will be brighter because you showed up? Judge,
Yes.
Chief,
Absolutely.
Mayor,
No doubt.
Don.
Yes, indeed.
Okay. Listen, thank you so much for your time. We are right on time, right where I said we would be. Thank you for allowing this opportunity for the public to hear your heart, to hear where you've come from, and to hear where you're going. Okay. So what I'm going to do real quick is I'm going to put you guys backstage real quick, have a word with you after that. So I'm going to put you backstage right now. Okay.
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 Let me say to our audience that I am overwhelmingly grateful for you taking time, even for those of us that are starving to death after the 40-day fast, taking that time and to give us this time of sharing. Please pass on that the city of Youngstown is in good hands because God has given Youngstown good leadership. There are more leaders than the four of them, but these are the four that the Lord led me to for this event and for this time. Listen, stay safe. Sanitize, vaccinate. If you don't want to vaccinate, social distance, wear your mask, do what you need to do, and wash your hands because the life you may save may be your own. And so I'm asking that you would do so. Y'all have a blessed day. Go Bengals. You know, I had to throw that in there. Okay. Ohio is going to the Super Bowl. Y'all be blessed. Love y'all. One and all. May God bless you and keep you is our prayer.